Prabhupada ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. So once again, thank you very much, dear devotees, for kindly assembling here and kindly giving me your time. We are studying Śrī-Upadeśāmṛtam in detail. It's a small text and it consists of 11 verses. But these 11 verses are known as Amritam, that is nectar of Upadesh, of instruction. So therefore, it is important to study this in detail because there's something that I was told in my childhood. It is better to study one book nicely and completely rather than studying 10 books incompletely. So therefore, since this is an achievable target, because there are only 11 verses, therefore let's study this book completely, nicely and thoroughly. I will also request all the devotees that since we are going slowly, we are having a detailed study, therefore I would request that if possible, please memorize all the verses as we are studying them. It's a very nice practice to memorize the original verses of the Acharya. So if we memorize all the 11 verses, then Upadeshamritam will become our kanthahar. It will become like the necklace around our neck. So we should make Upadeshamritam like a necklace around our neck, and we should be able to show to everyone. See, Dāmeśvara Prabhu, what is the purpose of a necklace? Why do we wear a necklace?
Decoration?
Yeah, decoration. To show to the entire world, see, I am so beautiful. I am wearing a necklace. I have a necklace around my neck. So similarly, the purpose of memorizing verses is we should be able to quote them when the need arises. So therefore, it is very important that we should memorize these verses. So I will request all the devotees that they can, go to the previous classes, especially the first session that we had on this, where I specified the meter of the verse and where I sang the verse. So we can refer to that class and we can memorize the verse. Finally, after all the classes are done, I will also send a recording of all the 11 verses, line by line, so that devotees who wish to memorize, they can memorize the 11 verses of Śrī-Upadeśāmṛtam. Before we begin, I would like to offer my obeisances to Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada. Shuddhyartham mama dehasya jalasnanam karomyaham Shri Rupa Vak Sudhasnanam Svatmanah Parishuddhaye. Shuddhyartham mama dehasya, for the purification of my physical body, jalasnanam karomyaham. Every day I bathe using water. But Shri Rupa Vak Sudhasnanam Svatmanah Parishuddhaye. But for Svatmanah Parishuddhaye, but for the purification of my soul, Shri Rupa Vak Sudhasnanam, I bathe in the nectar of the words of Srila Rupa Goswami. So dear devotees, Srila Rupa Goswami, Srila Jiva Goswami, Srila Sanatan Goswami, all these devotees, they are known as Prabhupada. The title Prabhupada was originally given by Srila Rupa Goswami to Sri Sanatan Goswami in the Lagu Bhagavatamritam. In the Lagu Bhagavatamritam, the 5th verse, Shrimat Prabhupadam Bhojai, Srila Rupa Goswami calls his elder brother Sanatan Goswami as Prabhupada. In the introduction to Bhagavad Gita as it is, our Srila Prabhupada, ISKCON founder Acharya, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, he calls Srila Rupa Goswami as Prabhupada. So Srila Rupa Goswami is also termed as Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada dedicates the Srimad Bhagavatam to Srila Bhaktisiddhant Saraswati Thakura Prabhupada. So he calls his own guru as also Prabhupada. And many places he calls Srila Jiva Goswami also as Prabhupada. So in our Guru Parampara, there are many Prabhupads, but the originals Prabhupads are Srila Sanatan Goswami and Srila Rupa Goswami. because they were the ones who were termed with these designations for the first time in the Sampradaya. So my obeisances to Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada. And in the previous talk, we were discussing about manasah vegam, that is the urge of the mind. And we specified what is manasah vegam and how do we overcome manasah vegam and what are the repercussions of not overcoming manasah vegam. So we saw all of that last time. So we will conclude manasah vegam today because we have to move ahead. So if we achieve control over manasah vegam, the urge of the mind, then what is the result? So Krishna says in the Gita, Mayyarpita mano buddhir yo mad bhaktah same priyah. So Mai arpita mano buddhir, my devotee who has offered his mind and intelligence to me, yo mad bhakta, he who is my devotee, same priya, is extremely dear to me. Because this was the solution suggested last time, that the solution is to experience bhakti ras. So we see, if a devotee is able to experience bhakti ras, then that devotee will easily be able to overcome his mind and the urge of the mind. So dear devotees, this is the way of controlling the mind. And once the mind is controlled, one becomes extremely dear to Bhagawan, Shri, Krishna. So this is controlled manasah vegam. Now we move ahead. Today we have to discuss the third vegam, which is Krodha vegam. So Vachya vegam, manasah vegam, and the third vega, which is very common in the world today, is known as Krodha vegam. Dear devotees, Krodha vegam affects many individuals in the world, or including devotees. So we have to define first and foremost what is Krodha. So Dhāmeśvara Prabhu, how do we define Krodha?
It's a frustrated desire.
It's a frustrated desire. All right.
I
So
guess that's the cause.
yeah, that's the cause. The cause of Krodha is frustrated desire. But what exactly is Krodha?
Wow. It's something we experience so obviously, but it's hard to describe. A desire to hurt other people.
Yeah, a desire to hurt other people. All right. But that can also happen without Krodha. Many people hurt others even without being angry. They're simply malicious people. So Krodha in general is translated as anger. But Srila Rupa Goswami gives a very precise definition of Krodha. So I have given a definition of Krodha here, which is from a very authoritative source, our author himself, Srila Rupa Goswami. So Srila Rupa Goswami says in his Natak Candrika, he wrote a literature on how to write dramas. So dramaturgy. So this is Natak Candrika. In Natak Candrika, he says, Krodhastu manaso deeptir aparadhadi darshanad. So Prabhu, can you please read the definition of Srila Rupa Goswami?
Yeah. Krodha is the burning feeling of the mind caused due to perception of offenses towards oneself or others.
Yes. So do you feel this definition is precise, Prabhu?
Yes.
So thank you, Prabhu. So this is how Krodha is defined. So Sri Rupa Goswami says, Krodhastu. What is Krodha? Manasah deeptir. It is the burning feeling of the mind. Let's just call it indignation. In one word, if we call it indignation. So the burning feeling of the mind. And why does it happen? Aparadh adi darshanat. Darshanat, due to perceiving some aparadh, some offenses, etc. And this aparadh need not necessarily be towards one's own self. It can be towards somebody else who is dear to oneself. So this aparadh can be towards oneself or others. But when one perceives such an aparadh or such an offense towards oneself or others, there is a burning feeling in the mind, and that burning feeling is called Krodha. Now, a person who becomes angry, he may or may not respond. It's not necessary that every time he may be able to hurt the other person, but the indignation of the mind is always there. So the symptom of Krodha is indignation of the mind. Whether the person is able to do something or not do something depends on the circumstance. But the indignation of the mind indicates that Krodha vegam has successfully arisen. So a very wonderful definition, and we have now precisely captured Krodha in our box. So we know our enemy because we have captured it within a box. But the enemy is far more superior to this, because the enemy will not go away simply by understanding it theoretically. So we have to have a deeper understanding of what Krodha vegam is. Our acharyas, the previous commentators on Upadeshamritam, have defined what are the limits of Krodha vega. And the first commentator is Srila Bhaktivinode Thakura. Srila Bhaktivinode Thakura says in his commentary that Krodha vega is expressed by Rudha Vakyadi Prayog Dwara. So he specifies how Krodha is expressed. Krodha is expressed through sharp words, etc. Now, it's a very nice definition because what he is saying is Krodha vega is expressed through Vacho vegam. That's what Srila Bhaktivinode Thakura is saying. Krodha vegam, although it's a separate vegam, but it is expressed through Vacho vegam, etc. So, we will keep this in mind because I want to make a very significant point here. After some time, I will introduce this point. But very interesting that Krodha vegam is expressed through Vacho vegam, through sharp words, etc. Srila Bhaktisiddhant Saraswati Thakura, he, as usual, he specifies what is Krodha vega and he makes the bracket very narrow. So what does Srila Bhaktisiddhant Saraswati Thakura say? Srila Bhaktisiddhant Saraswati Thakura says, Krodha arises due to atripti, unfulfillment of desires. So what is Krodha? He says, Krodha is anyabhilasha atripti janya. Janya means it is born out of atripti, dissatisfaction. So it is born out of dissatisfaction of what? Anya abhilash, material desires, first and foremost. So first reason for Krodha vega is unfulfilled material desires. Second reason, karma phala lobha atripti janya. So second reason is atripti janya. It is born out of dissatisfaction of karma phala lobha. I performed some activity, I want some result. I performed some activity, I want some result. But when I perform some activity and then there is no result, so that leads to Krodha. And third is, it also occurs in transcendentalists, mukti aprapti janya. So somebody who wants to attain impersonal liberation, but becomes frustrated in his attempts to attain impersonal liberation. So that person also becomes victim to Krodha vega, and then he gives up his spiritual practice and takes up a lot of other mundane services and considers them as the highest goal of his or her life. So that is mukti aprapti janya. So a person becomes frustrated. Even in our Krishna Bhakti, there are many people, please try to understand, many people who come to Krishna Bhakti because they have been promised that if you practice Krishna Bhakti, you will go back home, back to Godhead. That's what they were told when they were new. And after a few years, maybe a decade passes, and then they feel, well, I don't think I am getting any closer to going back home, back to Godhead. And once they start feeling like that, so mukti aprapti, they feel that I'm not able to attain liberation in this life. They become angry on the process of Krishna Bhakti. But some mature devotee should have told them that the ultimate aim of Krishna Bhakti is not mukti, is not liberation. The ultimate aim of Krishna Bhakti is Krishna Prem, attainment of love of Krishna, irrespective of where you are. Either you are in the material world or in the spiritual world. But that requires a very mature individual to be their guide or their guru. So otherwise, even devotees may become frustrated because they feel that I will not be able to go back to Godhead in this life. So all these are reasons for Krodha vegam. So Srila Bhaktisiddhant Saraswati Thakura defines Krodha vegam in this manner. Now, we should understand one thing, that actually Krodha is one of the manasah vegam. Krodha is actually one of the urges of the mind. In the previous talk, I had specified that one interpretation can be manasah krodha vegam. That is the anger, the urge of the anger born from the mind. Basically, this I had specified in the previous class. Actually speaking, Krodha is one of the urges of the mind. And this has been specified in the Srimad Bhagavatam by Shri Vyasadeva himself. Shri Vyasadeva says, Kamo manyur mado lobha shokamoha bhayadayah. So the mind is the root cause of kamaha, lust. Manyuhu is synonym for krodha, anger. Mado, lobha, shokamoha, bhayadaya, pride, greed, sorrow, delusion, fear, etc. So we have a very clear pramana that the mind is the cause for krodha. Because if you have a dead person whose mind has left the body, no matter how much you try to agitate a dead person, the dead person will not exhibit krodha vegam. So as long as the mind is there within the body, till that time krodha vega will arise in that body. Therefore, the mind is the cause of krodha vega, and therefore krodha vegam is nothing but a specific type of manasah vegam. This we have to understand. So if it is a specific type of manasah vegam, then Srila Rupa Goswami has already covered manasah vegam. If he has already covered manasah vegam, why is he giving a special treatment to krodha vegam? Why a specific distinct treatment to krodha vegam? So there is a reason for that. And the reason for that is that krodha or anger is such an urge that it can potentially destroy everything that the sadhaka has earned in his or her spiritual life. The mind has many urges. The most destructive one of them is not kama, is not lust. The most destructive one of them is not lobha, is not greed. The most destructive one, and which can finish off one's spiritual life instantly, is krodha. And therefore, Srila Rupa Goswami wants to highlight this urge separately besides manasah vegam. Another reason is because Sri Jiva Goswami also became angry upon the scholar who had come to find fault with Srila Rupa Goswami. So Srila Rupa Goswami also wants to highlight this for Srila Jiva Goswami, that not only manasah vegam, specifically krodha vegam, specifically the urge of anger. And therefore it is said in Shastra, na akaryam asti kruddhasya, that there is no misdeed that an angry soul may not potentially engage in. An angry soul, angry person can perform any misdeed. We will elaborate on this later. But let me take you back to what Srila Bhaktivinode Thakura was saying. Krodha vegam got expressed through vacho vegam. Krodha vegam gets expressed through urge of the speech. Now, krodha vegam can potentially cause us to lose control over any vega. Any vega. This is the nature of krodha vega. For example, vacho vegam. Let's say a devotee is visiting a temple and somehow he has, a conflict with a senior devotee in the temple. And because of having a conflict with the senior devotee in the temple, Krodha vegam arises in his mind and he ends up speaking what he should not speak. So this is an example of how Krodha vegam results in loss of control over vacho vegam. Now, sometimes there will be jihva vegam. In the future, we will cover jihva vegam, loss of control over tongue. So there may be a sadhaka, a devotee who may be very desirous of eating opulent food. So there may be a feast. And once the devotee goes to the feast, now a senior devotee may prevent this sadhaka from eating, because he may say, you didn't do any service. Hey, Dāmeśvara Prabhu, did you do any service? No, I just came for prasadam. No, you can't have prasadam unless you do service. So Dāmeśvara Prabhu, come next Sunday. So Dāmeśvara Prabhu. So I'm just giving an example, Prabhu. It's not that thing. So sometimes it can happen with any sadhaka. Then the sadhaka may become angry. And sadhaka may think, well, I have money in my pocket. I can eat outside. Why do I have to eat here? I can eat outside. So he may go outside and start eating any junk and thereby lose control over jivva vegam. All this happened because of krodha vegam. So then we will also have udar vegam. Udar vegam is desire to earn more, or the urge to earn unlimitedly or collect unlimitedly. So initially a sadhaka, when he is new in his spiritual life, he may be living a very simple life. But being unable to earn much money in life, a sadhaka may become angry. And because of becoming angry, then what he may start doing is he may start exploiting other individuals, also devotees, and thereby lose control over udara vegam. And krodha vegam can obviously also lead to loss of control of upastha vegam, the final vegam which we will discuss. That is the urge of the genitals. So, for example, a sadhak may be struggling, may be desirous of physical intimacy, but they may be denied by their spouse. And so becoming angry, they may try to find such intimacy outside of marriage. And then thereby they will lose control of upastha vegam. So, krodha vegam, the point of saying all of this is, krodha vegam can potentially upset our control on all the vegas. And therefore, Srila Rupa Goswami wants to give a separate treatment to krodha vegam. And potentially it can harm our spiritual life in ways which other vegas may never be able to harm. Therefore, a separate treatment for krodha vegam is very much needed. Now, just because I am speaking so negatively of krodha vegam, please don't think that all krodha is unhealthy. All anger is unhealthy. Please don't think like this. We should not make the mistake of thinking that all anger is unhealthy. Some anger is healthy. And some healthy anger should be there. Even Bhagawan, he maintains a healthy level of anger. Why? Because he has to maintain discipline in the universe. If Bhagawan does not become angry on undisciplined people, then the universe will become undisciplined. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, Kapil Muni says this thing. Madbhayad vati vatoyam suryastapati madbhayad varshati indro dahatyagnir mrityuscharati madbhayad. So, Kapil Muni says this thing. Madbhayat, it is because of my fear and supremacy. Vati vatoyam, that the wind blows. The wind blows because of my fear, he is saying. Suryastapati madbhayat, out of fear of me the sun shines. Varshati Indro, the Lord of clouds, Indra sends forth showers out of fear of me. Dahati Agnir, fire burns out of fear of me. And Mrityus Charati, and even death, Yamaraj goes about taking its toll out of fear of me. So Dhāmeśvara Prabhu, what fear is there exactly? If the sun stops shining, what is the sun afraid of?
The anger or the wrath of God, as we say in the West.
Yes. So 100%. So even Bhagavan maintains a certain level of healthy krodha vegam within himself. And this is needed for management of universal affairs. But we are not Bhagavan. So we should not have this level of Krodha vegam. We should not become so angry that the sun and the moon and the stars start fearing us. Hiranyakashipu became like that once upon a time. He started ruling over the entire universe, and all the gods were carrying out their functions because of the fear of Hiranyakashipu. But we are not trying to compete for this position. But the point to be made is that even Bhagavan maintains a healthy level of Krodha. So we should also see what is healthy anger and what is unhealthy anger within us. Now, not only Bhagavan, sometimes Bhagavan's, many representatives of Krishna, one representative of Krishna in the world is the king. The king has to have some Krodha. For example, the king is fighting an enemy. Now the king cannot fight an enemy without Krodha. Prabhupada said this, that Arjuna could not fight the war without anger. Anger is needed for fighting the war. So a king also has to have some anger, but that anger has to be limited. That anger has to be limited up to that specific incident, not before that, not after that. If a ruler also, while exhibiting anger goes overboard, then there is a lot of harm that can come. In the Manu Smriti, it is specified. Paishunyam sahasam droham irshya suyartha dushanam vagdandajam chaparushyam krodhajopi ganoshtakaha. Says, following are the 8 faults, gano ashtakaha, that can be potentially produced in rulers due to anger, krodhaja. First is paishunyam, gossip. Sahasam, harassment of innocents. Droham, betrayal. Irshya, envy. Asuya, fault finding. Artha dushanam, unjust snatching away of others' wealth. Vak dandajam, chaparushyam, speaking harsh words and physical assault. So even when kings, they overdo their Krodha vegam, they also fall victim to many faults. And this is not only for kings. You can see that many of these faults also arise in us. That is gossip, harassment of others, betrayal, envy, fault finding, just because of Krodha vegam. So some Krodha vegam is necessary. So in Bhagavan, some Krodha is necessary. In a king, some Krodha is necessary. But we are neither becoming Bhagavan here, nor are most of us trying to become rulers. We are trying to become sadhakas. So although in a ruler, some amount of Krodha may be necessary. A ruler may have to punish a murderer. And you can't punish a murderer unless you exhibit Krodha or anger towards them. But that's for a ruler. We are speaking here, and the Upadeshamritam has been written for a sadhaka. Our question here is, how much Krodha is necessary for a sadhaka? So, Dhāmeśvara Prabhu, would you like to give a pointer? How much Krodha is necessary?
You gave the definition that anger is caused by a perceived offense. And so an offense is some act which goes against something you hold precious or valuable. So in our tradition, as sadhakas, we hold our practices and our seniors and the scriptures and the deities and so many things as precious. And so if someone attacks what we hold precious, then that anger is an instinct to protect.
Wonderful. So what we hold precious are our deities, Bhagavan, our scriptures, and the rules which are specified in Shastra. Anybody performs an aparadh towards those, we can become angry. But still, we can become angry only towards those who have accepted our authority. Basically, if somebody has accepted our authority, somebody accepts us as a senior, then a limited amount of anger can be exhibited, and that anger is called as Anushasana. Anushasana means discipline. So we can engage in disciplining somebody, provided that they have accepted us as authority and they are under our guidance and training. Let's say somebody is not under our guidance and training, but somebody performs some aparadh which is disturbing to us. Then either we can leave the place or we can inform that person whom they consider as authority, so that that person may be able to correct them. Because Srila Prabhupada had said that a teacher can also use harsh words against, but he should not use harsh words against people who are not his students. So this was discussed in Vacho Vegam. So instruction should be given to those who are students. Limited anger should be directed towards those who are students. And such limited anger is not called as Krodha, it should be called as Anushasana, disciplining the particular person who is training under us. So when it is Anushasana, so it doesn't go overboard. A guru doesn't suddenly start hitting his disciple. A guru doesn't, start becoming overly angry. Angry only to the point that the disciple should understand. That limited anger should be present within a devotee. But besides that, when there is no need for anger, a devotee should remain what Bhagavad Gita calls akrodha. Akrodha means free from anger. So, this is how much anger a devotee should have. If there is a perceived offense against the Shastra, the Guru, the Vedas, and if it is done by non-devotee, then towards a non-devotee we can exhibit limited anger, Anushasana. If it is exhibited by somebody who is somebody who is training under us, then also we can exhibit limited amount of anger. But beyond that, no. So that is the limit of anger, healthy anger, which should be there within every devotee. Now, if a devotee doesn't even have this much anger, then that means they are, not even having that healthy anger within themselves. Then that will become a weakness. A devotee should have the anger which is needed, because, false pretension of having zero anger will not help a devotee. What will happen if there is a need for anger, but a devotee doesn't become angry? What will happen? So this is specified in the Mahabharata. Yo nityam kshamate tata bahun doshan savindati bhrityah paribhavantyenam udasinas tatharayah. Yo nityam kshamate tata, people who constantly forgive, even repeat offenders. Bahun doshan savindati, they attract many faults. How come? Bhrityaha paribhavantyenam, their subordinates, enemies and neutral people, they all constantly disrespect such cowards. So Prabhupada often used to tell the story of Narada Muni and the snake who was being hurt by so many people after becoming a Vaishnava. And then Narada Muni tells him, at least you can raise your hood. So limited amount of Krodha Vega is needed. Why? Because this limited amount of Krodha Vega will protect other people against committing offenses against Guru, Vaishnavas, Shastra, etc. So very much it is needed. We should not become falsely humble at this point of time and say, no, I forgive everybody. No. Some limited amount of anger should be there in a Vaishnava. So this is healthy and unhealthy limits of Krodha that I have specified. Now, if we allow our anger to become unhealthy and uncontrolled, then what are the repercussions? So these repercussions are first and foremost mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita. So, Dhāmeśvara Prabhu, do you remember a verse from the Bhagavad Gita which tells us the repercussions of Krodha?
It said that it's one of the gateways to hell.
All right. So it is one of the gateways to hell. But there is a verse which describes a sequence. That what?
Jayato Vishayan Pumsa.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Krodha bhavati sammoha, from anger comes complete delusion. Sammohat smriti vibrama, and then you lose all good sense of whatever lessons you've learned in life. Smriti brahmshad buddhinasho, and then without that remembrance, your intelligence is lost, and then you pranashati, you're just finished.
Yes, beautiful, Prabhu. See, I love how you memorize all these verses. So I'm so happy that you recollected the exact verse. Krodhat bhavati sammoha, sammohat smriti vibhramaha, smriti bhramshad buddhi nasho, buddhi nashat pranashyati. So krodhat bhavati sammoha. Krishna says from anger, complete delusion arises. What to do and what not to do. So all right, you may not be able to know what to do and what not to do. But from the past, you may be able to remember how to act. No. But from such delusion, bewilderment of memory, even your past memory is lost. You lose previous experience for some time. And then when memory is bewildered, intelligence is lost. And when intelligence is lost, one falls down into the material. One ends up committing those activities which one is not supposed to commit, only to regret them later in life. This is uncontrolled Krodha, vegam. You see, many times you go and ask the criminals in the jail and you ask them, what do you regret the most? You say, if in my anger I would not have used my gun, if I would not have fired that one shot, that's the thing they regret. If in my anger I would not have smashed his head against the wall, he would have been alive today and I would be out of jail. So you see, this is what pranashyati means. Pranashyati means they end up doing something which no sadhu will do. And that causes immense regret throughout their life. So therefore, uncontrolled Krodha vegam can have severe repercussions, which can haunt one till the end of one's life. So, in the Ramayana also, Shri Valmiki Rishi says, Kruddha papam na kuryat kaha, kruddho hanyad guru napi, kruddha parushaya vacha, narah sadhu na dikshipet, vacha vachyam prakupito, na vijanati karhichit. Kruddha papam na kuryat kaha. Which angry person does not commit forbidden acts? They all certainly do. Kruddho hanyat guru napi. An angry person may even end up killing one's own gurus. Kruddha parushaya vacha nara sadhu nadhikshipet. Or he may end up censuring saintly souls using harsh words. Vachya vachyam prakupito na vijanati karichit. An angry person does not understand what should or should not be spoken. So, Sri Valmiki in the Ramayana, he very clearly says, when a person becomes angry, he may end up speaking the unspeakable even to his gurus. A guru is someone who is going to save us from the ocean of material existence. But because of one incidence of anger, a person may end up speaking something which may make him unable to face his or her guru throughout their lives. Therefore, one should be very cautious of uncontrolled Krodha vegam. So, in order to control this Krodha vegam, we understood what is Krodha vegam, what is Krodha, and how does it affect us, what is healthy Krodha, what is unhealthy Krodha, especially what is unhealthy for a sadhaka. So we understood all of this. Now, how to control it. But before controlling it, we should understand how it arises. So Dhāmeśvara Prabhu, any indications on how Krodha arises?
Perceived offense, blaming other people for one's suffering, not getting what you want after thinking you've earned it, frustrated desire.
Very good. So these are all very nice, and if we boil it down to Bhagavad Gita terminology, so we will see that Krodha arises only due to two reasons, mainly due to two reasons, and these two reasons are specified in the Bhagavad Gita. One is called as Ichha, one is called as Dvesha. Ichha means desiring something, I want this. Dvesha means repulsiveness, I don't want this. So one is called as Ichha, wanting something, Dvesha, not wanting something. And both of these lead to Krodha. Now, question is how? first and foremost, let's take the case of Ichha, desire. Now, there may be a very happy person, and a happy person suddenly ends up having an Ichha. He says, I want something, X. Let's call it as X. I want X. Suddenly, in the attainment of X, some obstacle arises. Now, this particular person, he tries to drive away the obstacle, but he is unable to remove the obstacle. And therefore, he is not able to get his Ichha, his desire satisfied. The result is Krodha. So this is how Krodha arises due to Ichha, when Ichha is not satisfied. So this is one reason for Krodha arising. Now, let's see how Krodha arises due to Dvesha. Now, there may be a very happy individual. Now, she doesn't want something to happen. Let's say, event Y, or she doesn't want to attain an object Y. This is called as Dvesha. Now, someone or something is forcing Y to happen in her life. This event to happen in her life. Now, she tries to prevent this, but she can't prevent or remove the agent which is forcing this particular event from happening in her life. So therefore, because of being unable to avoid this agent which is forcing some negative event in her life, it leads to Krodha. So short and sweet, there are only two reasons for Krodha to arise: Ichha and Dvesha. Let me give a very simple example. Let's say I go to the temple on a Sunday. Now, Ichha. Why do I want to go? Because there will be a nice feast. Now I go there and somebody prevents my Ichha from happening. Some devotee comes and says, no, the prasadam is not for you because you are not a regular visitor. So my Ichha is frustrated. Krodha arises. Second reason is Dvesha. I go to the temple, but I don't want to engage in menial service. Suddenly a senior devotee comes and says, hey, I saw you after a long time. Can you do this service for me? Please, we need somebody to do this service. And now I can't say no to them. So I have to do that. So I do it, but with Krodha, with grudge. So because of Ichha and because of Dvesh, because of these two reasons, Krodha arises. These are the two reasons for arising of Krodha. Besides these two, there is no third reason. So all the previous definitions that a person perceives an offense, so these are included within these two, basically. So Krodha arises only because of these two reasons. Non-fulfillment of Ichha and attainment of Dvesha. So this is what it is. Now, the best way to prevent Krodha vegam is to prevent it from arising at the very beginning stage, to prevent it. Now, Bhagavan Shri Krishna says this: Asankalpa jayet kamam krodham kama vivarjanat. He says one should first overcome desire by giving up the mental resolve that caused the desire. And if you don't have desire, by giving up the desire, then one will automatically overcome anger. Now, let me ask you a very simple question, Dāmeśvara Prabhu. Now, do you remember your childhood, Prabhuji, when you were when you had ice creams? Do you remember having ice creams in childhood?
Yes.
Now, if in your childhood sometimes you would not get an ice cream, would you become angry?
I would throw a fit.
Yeah, definitely. I would also throw a fit. But today, now that you are so old, and I have also grown considerably old, today if you don't get an ice cream, will you throw a fit?
No.
What is the reason, Prabhu?
I understand that not getting what you want is part of life, and it doesn't help me to get upset about it.
Well, that's a very philosophical reason. But, for an ice cream, for a very small, ice cream, I think the reason is because you have overcome the desire. because you don't have the desire to have those small, simple ice creams anymore. And if you don't get them, it's not such a big thing for you. Isn't that the case, Prabhu?
I still want ice cream sometimes, but I have much bigger desires. Can we say
Yes.
that?
Yes. Let's just put it that way. So the desire for simple ice creams that we had in childhood is no longer there. We may want, some other forms of enjoyment, but those simple desires that we had in childhood are no longer there, because those desires are not there. Therefore, the anger which arose from the frustration of those desires is also not present in us today. Or let's not take ice cream. Let's take balloons. In our childhood, if we would not get balloons, we would often throw a fit. But today, will we throw a fit if somebody doesn't give us a balloon? The answer is obviously no, because asankalpat jayet kamam. We don't have the sankalpa. We don't have the desire to get something, get that particular balloon today. So since we have grown up, we have become more mature. Therefore, this is the reason why we don't become angry today for the same object. So gradually, a sadhaka should learn to not have desires for anything in the world. That is what is the first step in overcoming Krodha vegam. If that desire is not there, then the frustration arising from the desire will not be there. So therefore, more maturity is needed and some time is needed to overcome all these desires. Just like we can't expect a child to immediately give up the desire for balloons. Similarly, we can't expect a new sadhaka to immediately give up all desires. But after 10 years, after 20 years, a sadhaka should become mature and should give up petty desires. And by giving up petty desires, the krodha, which arose due to not fulfilling those desires, will automatically will not arise. Yes, Prabhu.
Prabhuji, there's a verse in the Bhagavad Gita where Krishna instructs us that even though so many desires may flow into our minds just like rivers to the sea, if we're deep and resolved in our spirituality, then we won't be moved by them. Is this verse saying a similar thing where even though desires might be present, as long as we don't make a decision to act on them, that we'll be in a good position?
Yeah, so that verse, Apuryamanam Achala Pratishtham, that verse which is there in the Bhagavad Gita, which says that, many rivers flow into this ocean, but the ocean is so vast that flowing of tiny insignificant rivers doesn't make any difference to it, basically. And therefore, the ocean is happy within itself and, doesn't need it doesn't have exactly the desire for all those rivers. So this verse is also saying a similar thing, that we are not really looking forward to those sources of enjoyment that we looked forward to maybe 10 years ago or 20 years ago. And because we have given up those sources of enjoyment, therefore the krodha which arises is not there. So this is what it is. Maybe 10 years ago, I used to fight for being first in the line of prasadam, maybe when I was a new devotee. But after 20 years, if I am still fighting for being first in the prasadam line, but there is something wrong with me. Don't you think, Dāmeśvara, if after 20 years I am still standing first in the line, I'm fighting for standing first in the line, there's something wrong with me? Yes, Prabhu?
Yeah. Ego problem.
Yes. Ego and maturity issue. He has not overcome his petty desires. So this is what Krishna is expecting us to do. So overcome Krodha by giving up these petty desires by maturity. So attain maturity, gradual maturity in spiritual life. Then Krodha will not arise. Now, a symptom of a person who has overcome his petty desires is mentioned in Bhakti Rasamrita. Very nice verse. Alabdheva vinashteva bhakshyaachhadana sadhane aviklavamatir bhutva harimeva dhiyasmaret. Alabdheva, when desirable objects are not obtained, alabdheva, or vinashteva, or if they are lost after obtaining them. Bhakshyaachhadana sadhane, these may be eatables or clothes to cover yourself or any other object. Then aviklava matir bhutva, without being disturbed at mind. Harim eva dhiya smaret. A sadhaka should remember Lord Hari. So this is the symptom of an advanced sadhaka. An advanced sadhaka is somebody, let's say he doesn't attain something, some food, some facility, or he obtains it, but then he loses it for some reason. Then aviklava matir bhutva. Don't become disturbed at mind. Okay, these things keep happening. Harim eva dhiya smarit. And remember Bhagawan Hari within your mind, because that is the highest source of your enjoyment. A devotee gets his rasa from Krishna Smaran. So that nobody will be able to snatch away from us. And I specified this last time, and that somebody asked a question and I answered that you should give free samples of bhakti ras to your mind. Just as the Britishers, when they came to India, they gave free samples of tea to make all Indians addicted to tea. Similarly, you should give free samples of bhakti ras to your mind to make your mind addicted to bhakti ras. So once the mind is addicted to bhakti ras, then the small things you didn't get. Oh, I was not treated nicely in this temple. Oh, I was not treated properly there. Oh, these people didn't give me good prasadam, or something like these things become very insignificant, extremely insignificant for such a devotee. If a devotee has a vacuum in his heart, if there is no Krishna Smaran in his heart, then these things become very important. Oh my goodness, they didn't feed me nicely. I'll show them next time. Let them come to the GBZ meeting. I'll show them who I am. So this is for a person whose heart has a vacuum. Why? Because the Bhakti Ras has not filled his heart. So he wants to express his anger in these ways. So if a person is happy in his Krishna Smaran, these things will definitely not make a person very angry. So symptom of a person who has conquered his desires and therefore conquered a lot of the Krodha Vega. 95% of the Krodha Vega will be conquered by this maturity. But there is still some variety of Krodha Vega which remains. And this is if there is some major source of Krodha. See, minor sources of Krodha, minor sources of anger, I told how we can overcome by becoming mature and by giving up petty desires. And I also gave an example. A child has petty desires, but when he grows up, he doesn't have the same petty desires. Similarly, when we are a child in our spiritual life, we may have some desires, but when we grow up, we shouldn't have them. We can overcome a lot of Krodha like this. But sometimes some events occur in life which can become a major source of Krodha, and even for very advanced sadhakas. And I'll give an example. Dhruva Maharaj was such a devotee, he saw Bhagawan face to face. He saw the Lord face to face. The Lord gifted him with a kingdom. And after gifting him with a kingdom, after a few years, something happened. The Yakshas killed Dhruva's brother. And after the Yakshas killed Dhruva's brother, Dhāmeśvara Prabhu, please tell me, how did Krodha vegam manifest in Dhruva Maharaj's life?
Dhruva Maharaj practically committed a genocide against the Yakshas.
100%. Dhruva Maharaj slaughtered almost all the Yakshas. And Dhāmeśvara Prabhu, this is after seeing Bhagawan face to face. Is this expected from a personality of the stature of Dhruva Maharaj who has seen Bhagawan face to face?
It's very surprising and raises a lot of questions.
Yes, 100%. So sometimes it may happen that some major source of Krodha may arise in one's life. And even the best of the devotees, such as Dhruva Maharaj, may fall victim to Krodha vegam. When this happens, we should pray that in our spiritual life, this should not happen. We pray to Rupa Manjari, Anukula habe vidhi. May my Vaidhi Bhakti be anukul, be favorable. May no major obstacles arise. But sometimes in the lives of some sadhakas, some major obstacles arise. And in Dhruva Maharaj's life, his brother was killed. And when his brother was killed by the Yakshas, Dhruva Maharaj went overboard. And Dhruva Maharaj killed so many Yakshas that Manu Maharaj had to intervene. Kuver had to intervene. All of them had to intervene, and then they are all surprised. We thought you were devotee, and devotee is not supposed to behave like this. We are surprised that you are behaving like this. So he was instructed like this. So when such a major source of Krodha arises, and it is very difficult to control anger, we should understand one thing, and we should understand it in advance before such a major source of Krodha arises. That ultimately all such Krodha is going to end up only when somebody forgives. Forgiveness will be the end of all such anger. Ultimately, Dhruva Maharaj had to forgive. When Manu Maharaj intervened, Dhruva Maharaj had to forgive. So all anger has to end up in forgiveness. A Vaishnav should make it a point that a Vaishnav should be the one forgiving. A Vaishnav should make it a point that he should have forgiveness. So Sri Vyasadeva says in Mahabharata, Kshamaya tishthate rajan, Kshamaya vinivartate. So Kshamaya tishthate, anger is prevented, and Kshamaya vinivartate, and is pacified through forgiveness. Kshama. So devotees should have this quality of Kshama, even for major aparadhas, major offenses that are committed. Because if at that point of time, if Dhruva Maharaj would not have exhibited Kshama or forgiveness, then he would have continued the slaughter of so many innocent yakshas, and that would have caused his further fall down from the position of a devotee. So therefore, it is very important that one should have Kshama. In the Mahabharata, there is one person who is always forgiving. That is Maharaj Yudhishthira. He is always forgiving all the offenses of his brothers. And he continues to forgive until the last moment when he is left with no option but war. Till that time, he forgave all the offenses of Duryodhana. One time, Draupadi became fed up of the forgiveness of Maharaj Yudhishthira. They were all in the forest, and Draupadi became fed up of his forgiveness. And then Maharaj Yudhishthira told something to Draupadi. He said, Yadi nasyur manusheshu shaminah prithivi sama nasyat sandhir manushyanam krodha mulo hi vigraha. So he spoke a series of verses, and these are very instructive verses. He said, if there are no individuals as tolerant as the forbearing earth, then there can never be any peace amongst humans. All disputes are rooted in anger. And if someone troubles us, and if we trouble them in return, if we physically assault a guru who assaults us, then such a mentality, that is an eye for an eye, will result in the destruction of all living entities and the escalation of irreligion. If angry humans start exhibiting anger in return, then every person who has been assaulted will assault in return. And all those who have been victimized by violence will exhibit violence in return. Fathers will assault sons, and sons will assault the fathers in return. Husbands will beat their wives, and the wives will beat their husbands in return. Oh, beautiful Draupadi. In this way, when the entire world becomes angry, there will be no peace anywhere at all. Forbearance is indeed the true pacifier of all humans. So even in a major conflict, even in a major source of anger, ultimately it has to end with Kshama, forgiveness. A Vaishnav should ensure that he or she is the one who is forgiving. So that if a Vaishnav ensures for a major source of Krodha, then a Vaishnav is situated in a safe state. Shri Vidur also specifies this in Mahabharata. He says to Dhritarashtra, Ekah kshamavatām dosho dvitiyo nopalabhyate, yadenam kshamaya yuktam ashaktam manyate jana. So he says that usually most people are able to find only a single fault in a forgiving person. What is one fault in a forgiving person? They consider that forgiving person to be weak. But such people don't understand that forgiveness is not a weakness. Forgiveness is indeed the greatest strength of one and all. Forgiveness is definitely a quality of the weak, but it is also an ornament of the strong. And forgiveness can bring the entire planet under one's control. What can forgiveness not possibly achieve? And what will evil ruffians be able to do against a person who is equipped with the sword of forgiveness in his hand? Indeed, every fire is automatically extinguished when one stops adding fuel to it. So my Guru Maharaj used to give a very nice example of this. There was a saint in Maharashtra in India, and he was on the banks of a river, and he was about to take a bath. So he went to take a bath, and after taking bath, when he came outside, then there was a Yavan. So this Yavan means basically there was a Muslim. He saw that this person is a Brahmin and he has taken a bath. So I'll make him impure. So this person, he spat upon this saint. So what he did is he again peacefully went and took a bath and came out. And then he again spat upon him. And then he again went and took a bath. And then he again spat upon him. And this continued for 10 or 12 times. And after the 12th time, so this Muslim asked him, why are you not doing anything to me? He says, because I think that you are giving me multiple opportunities to take bath in the Ganga. So many opportunities you are giving me to take bath in the Ganga. There is no reason for me to become angry. So, Kshama Shastra Kare Yasya Durjanha Kim Karishyati. If one is having the weapon of forgiveness in one's hand, then certainly an inimical person will not be able to harm them. So finally, this is the solution for every war. And this is the solution for all Krodha vegam. So dear devotees, with this, I would like to pause my speech here, but I would like to end with a statement by Srila Prabhupada. So Dhāmeśvara Prabhu, you can kindly read.
Krodha vegam. Krodha means anger, so it has also urge. Suppose I am insulted by somebody. Naturally, I'll be angry. But if I can't control, all right, let me. He's a foolish, he is done. Why should I lose my temper? That is called controlling Krodha vegam. Vacho vegam, Krodha vegam, manasah vegam. Mind. It has got so many urges. Mind is driving practically, let us go there, let us go there, let us do this, let us. Never mind, sinful or pious, mind is always dictating and rejecting.
Yeah. So Srila Prabhupada also says, if at a specific time I can maturely control Krodha vegam, all right, he's a fool. If he has done something, why shall I lose my temper? So then, this is the solution which also Srila Prabhupada gives. So once again, Dhāmeśvara Prabhu, I'm thankful to you. I'm thankful to all the devotees who are present. And I would like to pause by saying, Yadatra Skalitam Kinchit Vidvam Saha Purayantu Tat. Yadatra Saushthavam Kinchit Tat Guru Areva Penahi. Yadatra Skalitam Kinchit. If there's any mistake in my presentation, please don't become angry on me. You are Vidvans Purayantu Tat. You please correct any mistakes. But Yadatra Saushthavam Kinchit. If there's anything nice in the presentation, Tad Guru Reva. It belongs to my Guru Janas, my Diksha Guru and my Shiksha Gurus, all the disciples of Srila Prabhupada, all the God brothers of Srila Prabhupada, all the Gaudiya Vaishnavas from all the branches of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Shri, who are in the past, who will be in the future, and who are in the present. That is all of you. So it belongs to all of you. Me nahi, it doesn't belong to me. Thank you so much. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Jiva Goswami Prabhupada ki jai. Hitai Gaur Premanande. Hari Hari.
Thank you so much, Hari Pārṣada Prabhu, for that wonderful class. And we're going to transition now to questions. We have a question from Jai Dwarka Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dhanwad Pranam Prabhuji.
Dhanwad Pranam. Dhanwad Pranam Prabhuji.
Thank you so much Prabhuji. Then every time I hear you, I just feel that you are just the ocean of all the virtues which are there in scriptures that are always there like with you. And whenever any particular specific topic is given to you, and you just bring out all those pearls from the scriptures and just present it in a very systematic way, so that even the lowest of the person with lowest of the intelligence can understand the intricacies of the dharma very nicely. So Prabhuji, really grateful to you, and I think that we can never ever repay your this debt. We can never ever repay this, Prabhuji.
There is a way to repay. You know how to repay.
Yes, Prabhuji, please. I would like to know.
you can sponsor some sweets for a few brahmacharis. I'll be very happy. Give some,
Yes, sure.
give some sweets to the brahmacharis in ISKCON Dwarka
Yes.
from my side. I'll be very happy. So if you like my presentation, then you feed some sweets to the Vaishnavas. Right?
Yes. Sure. Tomorrow I'll do, Prabhuji, and I'll text you.
Yes, 100%. Thank you, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, my question was just from this last thing which you told that this forgiveness is the actually which is sustaining the peace in the world.
Right.
So, but how to reconcile this with the principle which you quote, with the principle which you quoted a few verses before, yo nityam kshamate tata bahun doshan, that one.
Yeah. So let me rephrase your question. I said that ultimately on all conflicts, all Krodha has to end with forgiveness. So, but a few verses ago, I also said that somebody who constantly forgives is perceived as weak. Now that verse which I said, somebody who constantly forgives, so that is for somebody who forgives without retaliation. With zero retaliation, a person just keeps forgiving, even without exhibiting little anger. So that little healthy anger should be exhibited. So, if after exhibiting little healthy anger, then one can forgive. But if one doesn't even exhibit that healthy anger, then one will attract a lot of faults. People will start disrespecting that person. So therefore, it is necessary to exhibit some healthy anger. And then after exhibiting healthy anger, then one definitely must forgive. So that is the difference between, so a person who is just keeping on forgiving everybody and anybody and everybody, like that. So like Gandhi used to say, if you slap me on one cheek and then I'll offer you the second, that way you'll keep getting slapped. So that is what that is what will happen. So we need a Gandhi 2.0. So our Gandhi 2.0 should say, if you slap me, I'll show you my fist. All right. Before showing you my cheek, I'll just show you my fist. I'll not hit you, but I have the courage to show you my fist. So that little bit of limited Krodha vegam is needed, Prabhu. Otherwise, if you just show the other cheek, then people will just keep hitting you just for the fun of it. That's what. So therefore, Prabhupada, although he liked Gandhi, Prabhupada did not agree with some of the principles of Gandhi, because non-violence is for cowards actually. This whole idea of non-violence is against the Bhagavad Gita. Non-violence in all circumstances is against the Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita says violence for the sake of dharma should be there. Anger for the sake of dharma should be there. Otherwise, we become a civilization of cowards, actually, and that should not be there. So that is what I would like to say. All right.
Just a follow-up question in this, Prabhuji. This is a kind a management question. Generally, what happens is that there are many people who do not even understand even after repeated warning, and when even healthy anger is shown, at the same time they are forgiven also, but still they do not take any lesson, and because of that what happens is that many sincere other people are suffering because of them.
Right.
And it may end up that some sincere good souls may leave because of that one, because of showing compassion on that person who is actually taking everything for granted. So
right.
How to balance this situation?
So if a person is a repeat offender and he's also causing other people, he's dragging other people down with them, so we should do like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did. Like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to cast them out from his association. So he would not be allowed in Vaishnava association. So such a person should be forbidden from entering into Vaishnava association, because he's spoiling the mood of many other devotees along with. But it should be first and foremost determined in a very cool frame of mind. Is this person really an offender? Has he really done it? Sometimes management decisions are taken with a very hot and heavy mind. With a very cool frame of mind, it should be decided. And after a decision is taken, we should wait for 24 hours and still think about it. Did we take a correct decision? And even after 24 hours, we feel that we took a correct decision. Yes, this person should not be allowed in Vaishnava association. Then that person can be told to keep away from Vaishnava association. So that is a good solution for you. All right. But with a very cool frame of mind, and only when it is really needed. See, it is going to harm that person's spiritual life too. So with a very cool frame of mind, and when no other option is remaining, that's when. All right.
Yes. Okay, thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Very good.
Thank you. What you said reminded me of what they teach in martial arts, where they teach you how to fight, but they simultaneously encourage you not to start fights, only use it in self-defense, and to be very honorable.
Right. Yes, Prabhu.
Next we have Omkar Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dhanat Pranam. Prabhuji, I had one question regarding as we speak about.
No, I think I'll not be able to.
How can we control our Vegas, or how should we maintain?
Omkar Prabhu, I think we lost your signal, and the signal is
Hare
weak.
Krishna.
Yeah.
Am I
I think
audible?
if you can turn off the video and just speak on audio, maybe we'll have a better signal.
Am I audible?
Yeah.
Yes. Am I audible now?
Yeah.
Yes, Prabhuji. So I was saying that we are studying this nectar of instruction, in which we study how to control our Vegas, or basically the point of the Vegas. So for controlling this, or keeping or giving this in our life, like how to apply it, it basically takes a lot of time, or I would say quality time. So what
Right.
should be the ideal lifestyle of a sadhaka? Because in recent times, the general lifestyle of a person is such that he may study it, but he won't be able to practice it. It will require a quality time to deeply meditate and take it in his own life.
Right.
What
So
should be the lifestyle of a sadhaka?
Well, the sadhaka should study texts with an intention of benefiting from them, with an intention of applying as much as possible from whatever he or she has learned. So therefore, a sadhaka, what he does is, when he reads a text, after the reading of the text, he determines that from a vyavaharik, from a practical point of view, how will I ensure this? For example, Krodha vegam we learned today. Now it was so many slides. At the end of the presentation, as a sadhaka, how will I practically implement it? Practically, what I will do is, I will try to develop some maturity in my desires, and I will try to give up fighting over petty desires. If this one can do, now this is the takeaway from whatever we learned today. If we can do, 95% of the Krodha vegam will be prevented. So this is how a sadhaka finally boils it down into practical behavior. Because every time you will not be able to remember these 20 plus slides. But finally, what you will be able to remember is what important instruction you boiled out of the entire presentation. So this is what every sadhaka should aim. So their lifestyle should be that they should read Shastra, or they should do self-study, discussion with Vaishnavas. Everything should be done, but for the sake of gaining these small principles. There was a nice book I saw, a nice title. I have not read the book. A nice title that I saw. It was called Atomic Habits. So I saw it on Amazon. Somebody was selling a book, Atomic Habits. So the title itself gave me, it was nice, but the title itself said, yeah. So the title itself said, yeah.
You're not audible.
Yeah, that's because your signal is weak. Maybe you can hear the recording later, but I'll continue to speak.
Yes, sure.
So this book, Atomic Habits, the title itself was nice to me, because this is what I want in my spiritual life. Out of all the lectures, I want to develop some atomic habits. Oh wow, this Dāmeśvara Prabhu has it. Yeah, let's highlight Dāmeśvara Prabhu. Okay. So yes, this is the book. Yes, Prabhu. So once again, can you show, Prabhu? Yes. So this is the book I saw on Amazon, but I have not read it. So just little habits which you can cultivate, which grow into bigger habits over a period of time. So I like the title of the book, although I'm not planning on reading it, but I like the title of the book, Atomic Habits. So out of every lecture, we should have some atomic habits that we should try to develop. So I hope this satisfies. Yes, let's move ahead.
Yes, Shri. I had one small question, second one. It
Yes.
was regarding when we have anger on towards ourselves. For example, we may be planning something to do in a spiritual life, but due to our procrastination nature, we may not be able to do that. For example, going to a katha or etc., something like that. So at such times, we become angry towards our own self that we couldn't do it. So, what should be our point on this?
So yes, as I said, obviously a limited amount of anger will definitely arise when we are frustrated at ourselves. But at the same time, if we keep to linger over it, then it will go against our bhakti. And one of the good symptoms of a good devotee is he doesn't linger over something which harms his bhakti. One of the 6 symptoms of Sharanagati is he gives up anything which is unfavorable to his bhakti. So if becoming angry with yourself is becoming unfavorable for your own bhakti, then you should try to give it up and focus on something else. So gradually, limited amount of anger on oneself is good, but don't start hurting yourself, and that is not recommended. So I hope that is understood.
Yes, Roji. Thank you, Prabhu.
Hi.
Hare Krishna. Next we have Sadananda Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Dhanvat Pranam Prabhuji. I want
Hare
you to tell me.
Yeah.
I want you to tell me on importance of monk devotees who are in temple. Like many people say that they are dependent on Grihastha devotees. Grihastha devotees do social services. They don't do any social services and all. People say, like mostly non-devotees says, and they say that the Grihastha people are more higher. They have this. They do social services. Like they criticize. I want to like. I feel bad when I hear such things, and they say like that is higher. They do social services and all. So I
Right.
want you to tell.
Oh, okay. So you've heard in the temple that there are full-time devotees, and the grihasthas say that they are superior because they are supporting this brahmacharya.
Non-devotees say mostly, not
Okay,
Grihastha devotees.
non-devotees say. So these non-devotees, they don't know what Krishna has said in the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna has said something in the Bhagavad Gita, and we should remind, if possible, we should remind them of this word of Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. I'll show you, Prabhu. And in Bhagavad Gita 7.8, he says, Shabdah khe paurusham drishu. And I want to highlight paurusham drishu because Krishna says in the Gita and 7.8, and you can, can you see this, Prabhu? Can you read this sentence?
I am sound in the ether and ability in man.
Yeah. So I am the ability in person. Paurusham drishu. So Krishna is the ability in all the grihasthas. So Krishna is the one who gives ability to anyone and everyone. When these so-called non-devotees, when they will become old, they will also become dependent on somebody else. That is when Krishna will take away their ability to become self-dependent. So nobody is self-dependent for their entire lives. Everybody has to become dependent on others. But who is dependent and who is not dependent, that is decided by Krishna, and Krishna gives the ability to all the grihasthas to support the brahmacharis. The grihasthas have no reason for being proud, and other people have no reason for pointing fingers, because the brahmacharis are doing something which these grihasthas will never be able to do. The brahmacharis are doing shastra, swadhyay, they are propagating bhakti, they are doing so many sevas which the grihasthas will not be able to do. So therefore, these people who don't understand, they should be told that Krishna is the ability in every human being. The ability to support in grihasthas is also coming from Krishna, because Krishna is Chaturvarnyam Maya Srishtam. He is the one who has created these 4 ashrams and 4 varnas. So therefore, nobody should find a fault in the system of ashram and varna created by Krishna. That's all.
Thanks, Prabhu.
Wonderful answer. Next we have Ashwini Kumar Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Guruji, Dandavat Pranam. It's always good to hear from you. Always very inspirational. So thank you so much for that. Guruji, I have a question on the anger part that you covered today. So when we read Srimad Bhagavatam, we see that in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, chapter 10, and there is a translation in text 4 when the translation says that when Dhruva Maharaj heard of the killing of his brother Uttama by the Yakshas in the Himalaya mountains, being overwhelmed with lamentation and anger, he got on his chariot and went out for victory over the city of Yakshas. So
Great.
I always get confused, Puji, like why Dhruv Maharaj got angry. Like he's a pure devotee, and we hear in Nectar of instruction that we should be angry for the Lord's service. So, but he's getting angry for his brother. So it's kinds of little confusing for me. Puji, if you can please help me understand. Thank
We
you.
discussed this example in the talk. So were you there when we discussed this?
Oh, I'm so sorry, Puji. I joined. I got this link late, sir. I
No
apologize.
worries. No worries. So we discussed this example in the talk, and this is a case of an anger which is not the usual variety of anger. I said 95% of the anger is over petty issues. Sometimes in 5% of the cases, it arises over some major issue, like somebody close to us is slaughtered or killed or something like that. So those sorts of anger I discussed in the final part of the presentation. Sometimes it will be unavoidable. Even if it happens to us, most of us will not be able to tolerate it. So therefore, I specified the value of kshama or forgiveness in the last part of it, because the only solution for such varieties of anger is kshama or forgiveness. And Dhruva Maharaj also ultimately had to, exhibit kshama or forgiveness. So maybe you can see the recording of this particular presentation again, and with the specific highlight on Dhruva Maharaj's pastime. So I specifically covered that pastime because it's an example of a Mahabhagavat who once again exhibited a lot of uncontrolled Krodha vegam. Right, Prabhu?
Okay.
Huh? Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Ananga Mohan Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam Prabhuji. Thanks a lot for your valuable lectures, which unearth the valuable jewels in the Shastras. My question is that, Prabhu, in the sadhaka stage, we are prone to the various vegams, and because of that, we commit various offenses, Vaishnava Aparadh. So unless this tendency of vegams have been eradicated from our heart, we cannot 100% or in a majority of situation not able to guard against these Vaishnava offenses. So how to mitigate these offenses in the sadhaka stage carefully? Thanks a lot.
Right. So see, we are newcomers, we are sadhakas, we want to mitigate all these because they may lead to so many aparadhs and so many disturbances in our spiritual life. Now, the point is, if we keep focusing upon the negatives all the time, how to remove the negative, otherwise I'll not become a pure devotee, how to remove the negative, otherwise I'll not become a pure devotee, then we will never be able to focus on the positive. So one of the mistakes that many new devotees make is they are always focused on anartha nivritti. They're always focused on removing the negatives. In front of them, there is a big list of negatives which they have to remove. But our acharyas, Srila Bhaktisiddhant Saraswati Thakura, they very clearly specified that there is something beyond anartha nivritti. And this is called as artha pravritti. So I want to specify something, which is called as artha pravritti, which is like the, which is the opposite. I will not say opposite, but which is the other flip side of anartha nivritti. So I would like to specify something which has been given by Srila Bhaktisiddhant Saraswati Thakura. So he was going on Radha Kund Parikrama in 1932. And when he was going on Radhakund Parikrama in 1932, he ended up speaking something. So, Dāmeśvara Prabhu, I'll share my screen, Prabhu. Will you kindly read the words of Srila Bhaktisiddhant Saraswati Thakura, Prabhu? Yes.
Of course, Prabhuji.
Yes. So, from here, Prabhu. All these days.
All these days we have not spoken about Leela, but this is our most confidential asset. This is our only sadhya, perfection. One should not make the mistake of thinking that anartha nivritti, overcoming impediments such as lust and greed, is the prayojana, goal of life. One thinking like this will never enter into artha pravritti, acquiring one's actual need.
All right.
For this reason,
so very important. One should not make the mistake. Therefore, I said many sadhakas make a mistake of thinking that anartha nivritti is what should be attained first. But Srila Bhaktisiddhant Saraswati Thakura says, if you keep doing this, then you will not enter into the positives, what should be done. You'll always keep focusing on the negatives. Therefore, okay, Prabhu, please continue reading. I know that.
For this reason, I will now begin speaking about Ashtakaliya Leela. I know that you are not ready to hear it, but we should know that such a transcendental ideal exists within the realm of devotion. Beyond the realm of anartha nivritti is artha pravritti, pure conjugal service to Radha and Krishna. This is transcendental reality. If we do not know of this transcendental realm, all of our efforts may end in nirvisheshavad, impersonalism. Do not let your day pass in simply trying for anartha nivritti. Artha pravritti is also necessary. Anartha nivritti is necessary until artha pravritti has started. When artha pravritti is present, anartha nivritti becomes unimportant and artha pravritti becomes prominent.
All right. So one last sentence, Prabhuji. These two sentences.
Those who have chanted Harinam for 15 or 20 days should know such things. The beginners need not hear these topics or they will misunderstand.
15 or 20 years. 15
I'm
or 20
sorry, did
years.
I say days?
Yes. Right. So those who have chanted for 15 or 20 years should know these things. The newcomers need not understand. So he is very clear about this, that if we don't focus on the positives, then all our efforts will end in impersonalism, just trying to drive away negatives. So your question, Anand Mohan Prabhu, is how do I remove this? How do I remove that? How do I remove? So the Upadeshamritam is not only about removing the negatives. The latter verses is all about positives. From 7th, 8th verse onwards, 8th verse onwards especially, all the positives will be given. So Srila Rupa Goswami is going to tell us how to drive away all the anarthas by bringing in something much more superior and positive. So please don't worry about that at all. You try your best to perform anartha nivritti at your level, but know that help is coming from a superior platform. Some superior help is going to come in the future, provided you are willing to accept it. Are you willing to accept it, Anangamon Prabhu? Please tell me.
Definitely, Prabhuji. I'm eager to accept it.
100%. Then Srila Rupa Goswami is also eager to help you. All right, Prabhu. So I hope that is reassuring. And
Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Padama Karuna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam, Prabhuji. My question, am I audible?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay. My question is, I'm very interested in this topic of forgiveness, to go into the details of that from your depth of understanding of Shastra. Have you spoken on it before? I may have missed, or I don't recall, or do you plan to?
Yeah, I may plan to speak, but I have not especially focused on Kshama. But Kshama is, a separate topic which I may cover in some future class. I don't remember covering it in any specific class. I touched on it today, but maybe in some future talk, we may be able to cover. It's a very important thing to be able to forgive. So forgiveness, forgiving not as a coward, not like, if you slap me on one cheek, I'll give you the another, not that. Forgiveness when it is when you know that you're not forgiving as a coward, but you're forgiving as a brave person. That forgiveness is needed. So that sort of forgiveness we should all learn. And that is what Shastra recommends for. Right?
Looking forward to it sometime, Prabhuji.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dandavat Pranam. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, I think Dāmeśvara Prabhu has posted a comment which specifies that Mahatma Prabhu has a seminar or course, an entire course on forgiveness. So devotees who are interested, they can kindly have a look at the link that he has given in the chat box. All right.
It looks like that's all the questions. So let's give a big thank you to Hari Pārṣada Prabhu for his generous sharing of his time and knowledge.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhu, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Vishnu Premataji. Hare Krishna. All right, Prabhu. I'll log off. Thank you, Prabhu. Hare
Okay.
Hare
Hare Krishna.